Welcome back to Deep in the Heart of Texas 4-H, the official 4-H podcast. I am so excited to be back with you guys today. We're rounding up summer, but we've still got some super exciting things to talk about on this podcast before we get our new 4-H year started. We are going to discuss the Texas 4-H Foundation today, and more specifically, our foundation board of directors. So, my awesome guest today is one of our current board members, Miss Angie Carver. How you doing today?
Hey, great. I'm glad to be here and excited to get to talk about the foundation and what all we get to do for these kiddos.
Awesome. Well, we're super excited to have you. And before we get into our actual topic, every episode, we talk about what they talk about in the coffee shop down the road. So, what's the weather like where you're at today?
Well, actually, I am not in my home district today. I'm sitting at my parents' house and they live in District 7. So here it's sunny and nice and hot. But I'm here because of course all the devastation in Kerrville was terrible and made lots of news, but San Angelo had their share of some
Mhm.
things at the same time. It just wasn't quite the extent of Kerrville. So I'm actually here helping my parents clear fence lines and brush and get livestock back where it needs to be. And it was definitely pictures don't do any of the damage justice for sure, but
Mhm.
it's nice today and everything is so pretty and green.
Yeah. Well, good. Did they have property damage to their home or?
Well, no, this is down on kind of like a hunting lease piece
Okay.
of land and where lambs are and cattle are and so and the Concho River runs through there and it
Mhm.
was in looking at the particular place we were yesterday, looking at my son's height compared to the river height, compared to stuff that was big trees and big logs up in trees. It has to be at least 30, if not more feet that thing rose. It was
Oh,
unbelievable.
wow. That is wild to even yeah, I've been having trouble picturing it, just how far it would have risen up. So that is just wild. Well, hopefully you guys are able to get them all cleared up and ready to go again. So,
Yes, yeah.
all right. Well, first, I just would like for you to kind of introduce yourself, tell us what you do other than being on the foundation board. And yeah, just tell us who Angie Carver is.
Well, I currently live in District 2 in Hell County in Abernathy, and I've been blessed to get to stay home and raise kids. My husband's family has a Hereford business, raise Hereford cattle and sell them to livestock exhibitors and to producers and people wanting to kind of grow their own herds. And my husband owns a grain elevator and then also works for Nutrient Ag. So I kind of feel like I'm a taxi driver for kids and run errands for those kind of things and um, take care of things around the house. But I guess my role's shifting a little bit as all of our kiddos have now graduated high school. So I don't know what the next chapter exactly looks like. We have kids scattered that one heading to OSU for his master's. We have one at Tech. We have one WT, and then one that's actually we just dropped off last week at the Air Force Academy who's going to play football. So we're going to be chasing football games. The one going to OSU is going to rodeo. So we're going to be doing some rodeos. So we kind of have kids scattered.
Yes, you do. My goodness, you're going to be on the roads a lot.
But as far as kind of I guess my history and 4-H is I didn't ever know life without it. My mom was an agent, so I guess I could say I was probably in the womb going to 4-H meetings and 4-H activities and never really knew anything different. She started out in Concho County and then in the 80s moved to Reynolds County and then retired from Reynolds County. So we've always been a 4-H family And as after graduating from high school, we continued. My husband and I started volunteer leaders and club managers before we even had kids, just straight, as soon as we were married, and we've helped ever since. And now got foundation added into that in a mix, and still, I guess we'll see what on the local level how that looks. I'm our president of our adult leaders association for the county. And so, yeah, I don't know how it's going to look from here forward. I know 4-H will always be a part. I don't think you ever truly get away from it. I mean, I watch my mom, and she's still heavily involved with grandkids and helping grandkids with projects and record books and leading different project groups and helping with contests and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, you're not going anywhere anytime soon. Well, so a lot of people listening might know that we have a 4-H program and a 4-H foundation, right? And they're separate but the same. And
Right?
it's super hard to kind of explain what that means. But what can you tell us about the Texas 4-H Foundation and the board of directors that serve that foundation?
So I was asked to join the foundation about 5 years ago, I believe. To so the Texas is broken up in a little bit different. The districts for foundation look a little bit different than the districts for the 4-H program, if that makes sense. Like District 1 and 2, as far as the foundation is concerned, are one district together. And so I was asked to serve and represent District 1 and 2 on the foundation board, along with several other people from that area. And kind of what the foundation's ultimate goal, I guess, is just to be that financial support
Mhm,
for the 4-H program,
mhm,
while the 4-H program, I guess you could say on a state down to local level, is trying to equip these kiddos
mhm.
for being leaders tomorrow, for being the forward thinkers, for being our future. And so foundation is here to provide that financial support
Yeah.
um, for those kiddos. And it's made up of extension people and 4-H leaders and industry professionals. It's just really, it's a lot of people who have a heart for kids and who have seen how 4-H has equipped these kids to be successful in the future. And you look across the room and I go, oh wow, I remember when we were in 4-H and I would see you at state contests. And you have some of those that are lifelongers, and you have some that they go, man, I've never been in 4-H, but I've seen what these kiddos, how successful they have been because they were in 4-H
Mhm.
growing up. And so I think that's where the heart is of everybody on that board is because they've seen that success. And really, it's raising funds in order to also to give scholarships
Mhm.
for 4-Hers. And that just happened at Roundup, and it was exciting. And just the dollar amounts that we're able to give, and continue increasing that because of the donors. And so we always say, yes, we appreciate the donors. So really, there's a lot of people involved, but it all goes back to having a heart for the kids, and knowing that these are our this is what our future is, and it's exciting.
Yeah, yeah. So the foundation essentially raises the money for 4-H programming, and the board is kind of the feet of the foundation out in the communities making that happen.
Yes.
Good way to explain it?
That's yes, that is a
Awesome.
great way to explain it, making sure all the funding that does come in is allotted in the most impactful ways to make all of the programming happen.
So, you kind of said, I think you said you've been on it a few years now. So have you served in any particular roles? I know you kind of mentioned the development districts, but aside from that, kind of just your experience on the board.
Well, so yes, the Clover Club Gala actually I may say this wrong. I think we are now in year four. I think we just had 4 year. I was on that inaugural gala committee and kind of getting that up and going and have helped with that. I've also served on the scholarship committee and that task force to look at as times are changing and as things are changing and requirements for college entrance is changing. And of course, you throw COVID in there and how that just really changed lots of things. Trying to make adjustments to the scholarship application, scholarship procedures in order to best mimic things that are going on just in the world of college, of kids going to college.
Yeah. So you also mentioned that you've been a 4-H mom, you're a 4-H alumni, you've never really known, your life without 4-H. So, um, kind of talk about your experience aside from the foundation, just going back to being a volunteer, a member, a mom, like what have you kind of seen in yourself and your family, through that involvement in 4-H, and maybe how has that really impacted what you're doing on the board?
So I start, I guess, with myself personally and and just getting to look at there are so many life skills that you learn through so many project, I guess, focus areas or areas of interest that you can't get it in other organizations. Other organizations tend to be very specific, maybe for one common cause, where 4-H has lots of interest, but the common cause is just how do we make these kids well-rounded with life skills they may not get in other activities. And so growing up and when you're in the middle of it, it's kind of like being in the middle of an athletic workout at the time. It's really hard and there's some tough times and there's some tears and there's some smiles and all the things, but in the end, you can look back and see what all it taught you. And so, growing up, I was involved in, again, being a county agent kid. I don't know that sometimes you don't have the choice. You're just in it because that's what mom says you're going to do kind of thing. Um, but I would say my biggest projects were food and nutrition and clothing, leadership. I, of course, always loved service activities, um, public speaking, but all of those, I guess the life skills really, it made you not nervous to stand up in front of a class and give a speech. It made you not nervous when those first job interviews came.
Mhm.
It made you okay when you had major projects that needed to be completed as far as goal setting and time management. And so those things that you may not get in other areas that you're involved in. And I guess growing up or seeing the leaders that growing up that mentored
Mhm.
me as well as other kiddos, you always went, I want to be that to somebody. And so once you have kids, we really, I guess before we had kids, we jumped in and we tried to do that. Me and my husband tried to do that and be that and continue that and make sure we instilled all of those important life lessons, I guess, into our kids. My husband and I were both on state council, both had record book wins and got Washington trips and all the things. So he grew up in 4-H as well and got to see the importance of it. So it wasn't really, it was kind of a non-negotiable, I guess you could say, for our kids too, but they
Yeah.
were all involved in, gosh, we have girls and boys. So we had all the way from fashion interior design. They all showed steers. They all were involved in food and nutrition. They all were leadership involved in leadership activities. Two of the kids were on state council. They did contests all the way from local up to national contests, and we got to be a part of preparing them along with their teams. It wasn't just about our kids, but along with their teammates and listening to them during the process. Again, it's hard. I'm tired. I want to go do this with my friends, but instead maybe we're practicing for roundup contests. But
Mhm.
I feel like once they hit college, it clicked and they went, I'm so glad I was in 4-H. And
Mhm.
I'm so glad now the network of people I have, whether it's kids I competed with, kids I was in stock show with, on state council with, whether it was adults that I met through 4-H activities. And I look at some of these are deans of colleges, and they're high up in different industry positions, and our kids had the opportunity to work alongside them through 4-H. They're different means, different projects, different contests, and now they have even that network of adults as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so many of the guests that come on here just remark on how it's just been such a generational thing for their family and how that, they did it with their kids, or if it's a kid talking, how their whole family's involved in it. And I just really think that it's, important for us to remember that in 4-H, that not everyone has that experience, but for the ones who do, it really is remarkable and something that will, stick with them. And so the reason I asked that question is because next I want to hear what's your why? Why do you devote time to the board? Because, like you said, you've got kids in multiple states, not only multiple places in Texas, and your family's just involved in so much. So you're spending extra time, right? And so, what's your why? Why do you keep doing this?
Um, I would say my why is because of the person ahead of me. My mentor ahead of me's why was probably the same thing as their mentor ahead of them's why, is they got to see it. I mean, they saw it. They saw the transition from a kid that maybe he's the one that sits alone on the playground kind of kid that has no friends, that maybe doesn't have the parent support, and you get them involved and they transfer form into this kid who's now on state council, who's now over some company in a big high up position that is successful, and it's because somebody gave that kid a little bit of time when others wouldn't, and tried to pull out those talents. We all know every kid is given a gift, every kid's given talents, and so they just sometimes need somebody to pull that out and find out what that is. And because 4-H is so many projects and so many opportunities to get involved, whether you're the meekest, shyest, quietest kid, or whether you're the kid that's the most outspoken, there's a place for you
Mhm.
on a team, individually, whether it's speaking to a group or whether it's programming a robot in robotics. I mean, I just think there's a place for every kid, and the why is probably um, finding is pulling those talents out of every kid, every gift, and making sure that they are equipped to then carry those talents and let those talents grow and bloom and blossom into this successful leader down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And man, anybody who's on this side of 4-H, adult leader, employee, board member, volunteer, whoever it is, we've all seen that kid or been that kid who kind of jumped to that fence of like you said, being shy to being capable. And we've all seen the kid who's done that, and it really is it keeps you going, like you
You're
said.
right.
So kind of switching gears here. As a board member, you mentioned the gala, the development district, some of those activities. What does a board member actually do? Would you say it's a day-to-day commitment, month-to-month commitment? When do you have meetings? What does that board member position actually look like?
So I think it's one of those things. If you say, "Hey, I feel like I'm in a leadership position where I would love to be, at a board of director officer." That's not me. I don't know their day to day. I can tell you our day to day, it's not a day to day for foundation members. So I think there's people that have asked, hey, I kind of want to be involved, but I just don't know that I have the time. And I say, just do it. It's not a huge time commitment per se. There's just a couple of meetings per year, and they typically are in College Station. One always is in conjunction with Roundup, which if you're a 4-H parent, leader, you're typically there anyway. So it's not making a special trip. Um, and as far as at those meetings, and then there's activities like the Clover Club Gala, which is during Roundup as well. And they encourage all of the board members to attend. But then again, you're already there. On I guess, a district level, which it is changing. There's been some things changing with that a little bit on fundraisers within the district. Previously, we had individual district fundraisers just to support those scholarships within those districts. And so that was some time commitment in your home district. Our home district did a clay shoot. That's what we've done for the past couple of years. It's a 1 day thing, so it's really just planning the activity. So as far as being a day-to-day time commitment, I would say absolutely not. As far as the foundation meetings. Now, as far as back at home, that's one of those things that, as a leader representing the foundation, I mean, I just challenge you to give as much time as you can, because somebody gave your kiddo that time or gave you that time. And so it's just kind of one of those pay it forward things. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the day to day. And of course, we're always looking for um, donors and ways to make money. So that's just I guess a behind the scenes on a day to day, not really a time, but just continually, reaching out to people that mention that they like what 4-H does, or that they want to support 4-H, and finding ways they can. And I guess that's kind of a lead into, if anybody ever asks, is, well, how do I do that? Maybe I don't want to be on foundation, but maybe, hey, I have some finances. I want to be able to push towards 4-H. And so there's always the Clover Club Gala, which is at during Roundup, and a very nice event and fun event. You can be a member of the 4-H Alumni Clover Club. You can do things like memorial gifts or tribute gifts, and those you can find that online, or you can donate by check, and you can contact the state office on that. A scholarship donor, they're always looking for scholarship donor money, and then things like Giving Tuesday in the fall. So those are ways people could give without being on the foundation, although it kind of, I guess, it ties into the foundation, because ultimately then the foundation looks at all that money and says, okay, how do we get this in kiddos' hands?
Yeah. You really transitioned it quite well there, because the next thing I was going to ask you is if someone, has thought, maybe I can't be a board member, but I can give financially. How would they do that?
So the ways I just mentioned, and some of that is online. If ultimately they don't know, or they say, hey, I can't go to the gala, so I don't want, I can't do that. Um, I don't really have a memorial or a tribute. As far as becoming a scholarship donor or just giving, I would point you toward the state office, and ultimately talking to David White at the state office. I do not have their phone number memorized, but
It's
um,
on the website.
it's on the website. Okay, perfect. And so, yeah, that would be the way to ultimately give, if they wanted to find a way to give without going to one of those events.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and of course too, I say, some people go, I don't have the finances, but I would love to help in some way and give. And I just say, hey, everybody has a talent. And again, that broad range of projects involved in 4-H. If your talent is taking pictures, go volunteer to help a photography
Mhm.
group. Or if you work at a vet clinic, go give a program to a 4-H club and help their vet science I mean, I think so many people don't realize they have talents or interests, and giving of their time is worth a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. There's always some way you can give something to 4-H, whether it be financially or your time or your talents. So,
And kind of to add to that, if people haven't seen, and there is a breakdown, they go, well, where does all this money go? And we said, it helps, it supports programming and scholarships, and the scholarship thing just happened. And as far as this past year, the scholarship, the breakdown was interesting. It was 70% female and 30% male kids that got it. And we were able to give a $30,000 scholarship this year. It was the first time ever, but it was because the foundation, there, lots of good, nice, generous donors that made that possible. And that was our top scorer, I guess you could say, in the scholarship process. Kind of some other breakdowns. It's about 50% are going into ag majors. And of the kids, their average GPA, I'm looking at the little breakdown, is right at a 95. We had 83% were public school, and then we have some homeschool and private school. Um, the top colleges that these kiddos are going to, it looks like 78 of them are going to A&M, 30 to Tech, 17 to Tarleton, 15 to WT, and then 13 a private university, which our scholarships do require kiddos to go in state. And so that's kind of a breakdown of what those scholarships looked like for this year.
that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that because I think that those scholarships can be a real incentive for kids to get involved and stay involved and do the best that they can while they're involved. So, um,
Yes. And
you
those
know,
those kiddos, I don't, it's hard when you're in high school and thinking about college and how much it costs. And then when you look at it and you go, I try to tell my kids all the time, like, $20,000 scholarship from 4-H. I said, do you know how many hours you would have to work at a part-time job to make $20,000?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or you could have fun and do it the 4-H way, and there's generous donors who want to invest in you, and so again, it's hard to see on the high school side of it, but once they hit that college, they're like, wow, I'm so thankful. I am so thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Angie, thank you so much. This has been very insightful. I guarantee you someone listening is going to say, wow, I had no idea that our foundation had a board and that they did all of these things. And oh, hey, we should apply for this scholarship. So I just, yeah, really appreciate your time and your knowledge this morning. And, the program side, we just really appreciate the foundation and what you guys do. Because, people may say, well, we still have to pay for things in 4-H. Yeah, but it'd be a lot more if we didn't have our foundation supporting these programs and providing these opportunities. So, we just want to extend our gratitude for you and for everyone on the board and for what y'all do.
Well, it's fun. Again, it's fun pouring back into the kids and then watching them. I would love to have a tracker on every one of them and just see where all the cool things they're doing, neat things they're doing, and how many of them go, yeah, and the only reason I'm here is because I was in 4-H.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, only a couple things for you guys to remember today. We have our 4-H sock fundraiser going on. Order by August 15th. Funds go directly back into your county from each purchase. So support that. And then shop Murdoch's in August. Again, to give back to 4-H, round up your purchase and encourage your family and friends to go do the same. And those funds will come right back into 4-H programs. So last thing we do here every episode is our top 4-H tip. Angie, do you have our top 4-H tip today?
Well, as far from a foundation standpoint, I would say get involved. However that looks, whether that's your time, your talents, your funding, get involved. And then just sit back and watch how much it impacts kiddos and where they end up and how they end up helping make your world, future world, a better place.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thanks so much, Angie, for being on today.
Yes, it was fun. Thank you.
We'll see y'all next time.